one of the things I remember reading about was you made this move to Two Gingers.
Yes.
You had to sell off the 4 restaurants, or your interest still?
If you want to, I mean, obviously we had been making a bit of a career out of, on the publicity front, with having the highest sales of Jameson at the local in the world, you know, and that was basically curiosity. We were going through approximately on average 2 cases a day, which is, you know, I mean, the people that were behind us were MGM, New York, all the casinos in Vegas. And yeah, it was, and they used to bring the brass plaques to us. The president used to come, actually, of Pernod Ricard, Paul Duffy, an Irish guy. He's now the head of Absolute for them. It's Irish Distillers is owned by Pernod Ricard, the French company. And so he now heads up Absolute. But he used to come with the brass plaque, and we'd call you and all the other people and say, hey, publicity opportunity. But the brass plaques are in the terrazzo floor at the local. The first 4 are in there. The 5th one, he didn't come with it. He sent it via FedEx because they already knew we were starting their own whiskey business. And it's, yeah, we had trademarked, so one of the things, and that's where the trademark comes in, we had written all our own software for the back of house for the restaurants. I mean, there's probably chains, national chains out there that didn't have the detail that we had for the P&Ls for the business. On literally Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. every week, I would get a full P&L for each one of the 4 pubs, and it was down to the penny. So you knew, did you make $1, did you lose $1, etc., where the issues were. But one of the things that it taught us was who was buying the whiskey. So 76% of our sales of whiskey were going to either the Big Ginger or the Skinny Ginger. So we had trademarked those drinks, because I used to always say, I wish I was around in 1952 when Irish coffees were invented in Ireland. The first guy came up with the recipe to actually a bunch of American tourists who were stranded in Ireland at Shannon Airport. And I thought, well, if you just trademarked that, he could put whatever, his own whiskey into it. And so anything, I thought, if we ever get a drink that kind of catches on, so it'd be like if somebody had trademarked Cosmopolitan, well, then you would say, oh, it has to be my vodka that goes into it, etc. So we trademarked them, and we got them through the whole process, and 76% of our sales were going into the Big Ginger, the Skinny Ginger. And of those 76%, 50% were going to females, which meant 40% of our sales were going to females. There isn't a whiskey in the entire world that has 40% market share from females. And so we kind of thought, we're maybe onto something. Pernod Ricard made an offer to buy the trademarks. Wasn't good enough, and so we said, well, we'll continue on, we'll keep selling your products, etc., etc. But connections are very good. 1985, before I came here, I went to a talk by a guy called John Teeling, and Dr. John Teeling. He was a professor at University College Dublin. His PhD thesis at Harvard was the demise of Irish whiskey in America after Prohibition. Prior to Prohibition, whiskey in America was Irish. It was 62% of every drop of whiskey was Irish whiskey. Today, 2%. So he was thinking about this. He just found it kind of curious, etc. And so the year I came here in 1987, he was still a professor at University College Dublin, and he was into mining as well and a bunch of other things. He bought an old defunct distillery in Ireland, Kilbeggan Distilling Company. It was the oldest distillery in the world, 1757. On a beautiful little Brosna River with the old wheel, wasn't working anymore, etc. And he bought that, and he produced his first product. He took a year to do it up, 4 years to age the whiskey. And in 1992, I was back in Ireland. It was September 27th, just back on a visit. And there was a newspaper in Ireland called the Sunday Tribune. And there was a full-page article by John Teeling. And I had met him, shook his hand. He wouldn't have remembered me from Adam, but I had read articles on him. Full page. And I tore it out, and it was about the need to start enterprises. I still have that page at home, that one page from September 27th. It's highlighted, it's underlined, and it wasn't the only reason, but it definitely planted another seed. Well, maybe now is the time. And I'm also dealing with all these guys like Scotty Olson and so forth, and all crazy guys that are out there. And so I thought maybe now is the time. Well, John Teeling, obviously I'd kept a little touch with him, so I called him up and I said, John, you don't remember me? Give him the story. Oh, yeah, and he's one of these guys, I kind of remember or whatever. But I said, how much whiskey do I have to buy from you to have our own blend and our own brand? I have a friend who was the master distiller, Noel Sweeney. Noel is also a fantastic guy. He's got 2 chemistry degrees, an MBA in IT, and it's all about the juice. He's the most award-winning distillery in Europe. European Distillery of the Year for the last 4 years. Only Irish distillery that's ever been World Distillery of the Year. John said, come on over and we'll sit down and we'll have a cup of tea and we'll talk about it. John got into a fight at the Plough and Star in Cambridge, Massachusetts when he was at Harvard, in the bar, and he's never had a drink since. He owned a distillery. He never tasted the whiskey once out of it. He might have been able to market it better if he was drinking it. So I went over and I spent 3 days literally with him and his son Jack, who was the managing director, and then I went and spent it with Noel, and he said, you need to buy a container load. Well, we were going through the 4 pubs about just over 1,200 cases of Irish whiskey a year, and I figured container load is about 1,400 cases, so we'd have, if we could get 50% of our sales, we'd have 2 years' supply. All we'd have to do was front it up front, because I knew the product was really good. I mean, I went in, spent 3 days with him, tasting. Not that I'm an expert on it, but Noel is an expert, so I would tell him, here's who I want to buy this product. Here's who our market is. And our market was the non-snob, the non-connoisseur, the person who says, you know, just I like the taste of it. We used to talk about who our demographic was, and our demographic was people who knew who they were happy with who they were, and if they liked one of the pubs or they liked the whiskey, then we would like them. You know, it was a mutual admiration society. And so we bottled it, shipped it over, and sold it in the 4 pubs. We launched it on March 16th of 2011. And I had said 50%. By the end of March, we were at 90% of all of our, and we were selling every other Irish whiskey. By the end of April, we were at 94%. I thought, well, it'll go to 70 maybe, 94. And that was the day I sat down with, there were 5 guys and 2 women who had now, 6 of them had gotten sweat equity in the business. They had all been with me, some of them since the very beginning. And I said, right, here's the deal. You're going to buy me out, and I'm going to take this whiskey and I'm going to launch it in Minnesota, because you can't do both. You can have it if it's just for yourself, a liquor brand. But if you want to sell it to Joe across the street or Brits down the road or whatever it was, you can't do both. Since Prohibition, separation of church and state kind of thinking. And so that was it. And so July 4th of 2011, a little bit of symbolism not lost on me, we did the deal and we launched at the end of the year.
Son of a gun, there's a lot in there. Yeah. I mean, that's fascinating.
Yeah.